on the Nocturnal. Hey guys,
Hi.
oh you're here. It's about time for the movie to come out. A teenage rom-com is always a great idea. When you guys were coming up as directors, did you ever have it on your bucket list? I have to make a teenage rom-com.
I think that uh I find it a lot easier as a writer to pull experiences from my own life once I've had a bit of time to have perspective on them. So, Dan and I are both in our early 30s, and so I think looking back at our college selves is enough distance to have perspective to really be able to kind
Yeah.
of analyze ourselves in a really brutal, like full picture
You can
way.
really see like the story of yourself a lot more clearly with some time where it's like, oh, I that breakup led to this change in my life. It's just like easier to see the pieces as they
As opposed to the
happen.
ones that we're in. Like we both just got married and not to each other, to other people. And we both recently got married to other people.
Yeah.
And but everyone was invited.
Yep.
And I think I would have a harder time like writing something in this moment
Yeah.
about that because like we're still processing that. I mean, your wedding was 3 weeks ago. It'd be hard probably for
Yeah.
you to write the
I
movie of
couldn't I don't have much to say.
that.
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How did you balance the comedic and heartfelt emotions in this movie together when trying to create a new piece?
I think that was one of our biggest goals, and I think we really relied on balancing our main story with Kiernan and Nico's characters with our secondary story with Caleb Heron's character Palmer to add a lot of lightness and a lot of comedy. We really liked this idea that there's things that are funny in different ways because Kiernan and Nico's night is funny because everything is going wrong, and Caleb's night is funny because everything is going right in a way that he
Perfect.
never expected. And so I think that also surrounding the cast, the supporting cast, especially with a lot of comedians and comedic actors that have that kind of stand-up improv background, really helped set the tone for an otherwise like very emotional story at the center.
Yeah. I would say personally, like I knew the movie was funny when we wrote it. I was like genuinely I it's my favorite thing about the movie how like sweet and open-hearted it is, and like the moment when Caleb goes to the Friendsgiving in it
Yeah.
is like literally makes me like tear up still, even I've seen it 500 times, but
Yeah, that's such a credit to our cast because I think, yeah, when you're writing jokes sort of intentionally, you're like, okay, we're intending for this to be funny, but those moments of just eye contact between the characters or an emotional shift or a tear rolling down
yeah.
Kiernan's face, you can't anticipate that on the page, and then when you see it come to life, they added so much heart.
Yeah.
As directors and writers, when you guys watch movies, you probably have a different lens than an average viewer. You probably notice things like, hey, that was a really good movie by the director. That was a really good note by the actor that normal viewers won't notice. In this film, there was a scene at the end where the two main characters had to figure out if they were really in love with one another or if they were just best friends. When you guys were creating that part of the film, did you ever think about parts of when you watch rom-coms like, hey, that was a good moment, this was a good moment, and then say, I want to add that all into this film?
Absolutely.
Totally.
I think that for me, one of my favorite tropes of a rom-com is there's always that moment where someone is like running to the girl, whether they're running down the street, running through the airport, they're running to like tell the person that they love their feelings. And so that felt like an iconic scene that we wanted to put in our movie, but do our own twist on it. So we have Nico doing the dramatic run, and I think it's such a beautiful, we shot it sort of golden hour as the sun was setting, and I think it looks so good on camera, but without giving spoilers, the results of what he has to say is a bit of a twist on the trope.
Definitely. And like, when Harry Met Sally being the lead into that motivates him to be like, what do I really feel? And I think if we did our job well, like the audience is watching him running the numbers of like, is this the right thing for you guys to like start dating each other? And you know,
Yeah, and there's also a lot we talked a lot about in the scene where our characters kiss. We talked a lot about with our composer what we wanted to do with music there because you can tell your audience how to feel with music. And so a lot of the times when your characters kiss, there's this like huge swell that sort of tells you like, yep, you're supposed to be happy right now. And we had to be really intentional about leaving that a little ambiguous because we wanted people to be confused. We didn't want to tell the audience exactly what was going to happen, but we did want to trick them a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was a big credit, I think, to our composer for having to incorporate that into
Yeah, it was
his work.
tricky to thread that needle of like it still you can feel the emotion of it and it feels like a big deal, but it's not
It couldn't be
screaming at
so
you.
romantic that
Yeah.
then you're like disappointed with the other way. But yeah, shout out Jonathan Sadoff, amazing composer.
Yeah, that's why I asked that question because while I was watching, there were so many moments of my favorite rom-coms that were in this movie. I was like, wow, that really reminds me of that moment. And it's some of my favorite moments. So it was really good to have that all together in one
Nice.
film. How was your relationship with New Line Cinema when you were making this film?
Oh, they were the most supportive partners.
Incredible, yeah. They're such like comedy pros. They've been doing it for so long. They know how to make something funny and like
And I really appreciated, so much a lot of times of writing something. You feel like the notes that you would get of like, oh, how can you make this like, smaller or like less expensive or like how can we like, cut corners this way or that way. And I feel like they really encouraged us to like push things
yeah,
to
go
make them
bigger.
big. Like the one that comes to mind is the college house party scene that they go to in the beginning. Like a lot of the funniest bits from that were suggestions from the studio, really like pushing us to find that physical comedy, the raunchiness, the nudity, the peeing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was like we knew it had to be a really bad night for them, but I think in our earliest iterations it was more of like emotionally bad, and it turned through New Line's help turned into like, you know, really rough stuff happens to them, and
Yeah,
they
and Nikki and Richard Brenner, who's the president of New Line, like he's worked on really classic comedies. Like he's with like in from the early 2000s with like big cinema, like physical comedy set pieces, and I feel like we learned a lot from them.
definitely.
How was it working with one another? Why were you guys the most perfect creative partners while making this film?
I mean, I think it's literally like born out of our friendship, this movie. Like it is the story. It's an imagined history of us had we gone to college together, and I think getting to like really pull from ourselves and our friendship like is what gives the movie its like heart and humanity in the first place. So it getting to just like make it side by side and watch Jordan direct was like just a dream come true. It was incredible.
And it was so helpful. This was my first time directing. We wrote the script together and I directed the movie, but I had Dan with me because Dan was also an executive producer and I had him there on set every day. So I thought it was so just invaluable that when I was directing a scene, if there was a joke that wasn't working, I could always, turn to Dan, know he was by my side and say, hey, can you go try to fix this line or can you pitch an alt or I had this like on-set writer to help me every step of the way because even though I'm also a writer, I was really in like
You had some
director
other
mode.
stuff going
Yeah.
on, yeah.
Um, what is one piece of advice that you would each give to an up-and-coming writer and director?
Hmm. I would say to draw on our themes here of what we've been talking about, like consider, you know, look at your own life and your experiences, especially the ones that you have a little bit of distance from, and try to, imagine like a big cinematic version of a part of your life that you can really infuse with yourself, but that you can imagine appealing to like a bigger audience. Because the story of like me taking my dog out and like him pooping in the wrong street, like I don't, it's like,
Perfect
yeah,
example.
nailed it.
About that.
Nailed it. I
Uh,
think, yeah, things that feel like human and have a real
Universality.
exactly.
I think I would say that when you get creative feedback as a writer or a director, as much as you can, because we're human and we all have egos, try not to take notes or feedback as an attack and try to always find, even if it's the note behind the note, even if the suggestion that you're getting feels like they don't understand me, they don't understand what I'm going for, try to use it as inspiration to think about what you're working on in a new way and know that your project is malleable and that your script, if you really keep to the heart of it, it can bend really far without breaking. And that I think that when you view notes as an attack on what you're trying to do, it makes it really hard to push the ball down the field to the point where you're actually going to bring something to production.
Yeah, film is a very
Collaborative
inherently
medium.
collaborative medium that requires a ton of people investing their time and energy and money in making it. And
So embracing that group project mentality.
yeah.
Kiernan, your character navigates a unique challenge of balancing relationships and friendships. How does your approach portraying this emotional chaos with humor translate in this movie?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that what's fun about the movie is that the characters are not finding these things funny, but we as an audience are. So that was kind of interesting because we were in so many scenes and moments that when we watched it with an audience, I was like, "Oh my God, right, that was super funny." But doing it, I almost felt like these moments feel life or death for these characters and really sort of emotionally intense and catastrophic. So I felt like but it was also so fun. But I feel like for me, a lot of it was just staying present in the moment, feeling those stakes, even if it is, a comedy and lighthearted. These moments felt big also, and that was like just leaning into the emotion. I mean, these characters care, they're flawed, they're messed up, but they really care deeply about what's going on in their lives. And I think just making everything feel like heightened because when you're 19, 20, the stakes for everything feel really big, even if maybe they don't look like it in hindsight.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So your role in Sweethearts leans into comedy at awkward moments of young love. How
Mhm.
did you prepare for this lighter, more humorous role compared to your other projects? And this could go for both of you.
Mm.
How is it different from other projects in a comedic sense?
Yeah, this is more of a lighthearted role.
Oh,
It's fun.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how does it compare to your other roles?
Um, well, I guess the main thing that it's college. Most of the things I've done have been high school.
Mm-hmm.
I think we cruise out of that category now, which is kind of sick, like that's rad. But
You say that now.
yeah, right.
Never
And then
done.
no, never,
Got
never
your
done.
whole 20s to be in high school.
But yeah, just the college aspect, and then the humor of the college aspect is a little more raunchy. It's different in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it was a little more grown up humor.
Mm-hmm.
That's for me. That was the different aspect for sure.
Nico, Sweetheart seems to capture both the humor and heartbreak of young love. Did you pull any of your own personal experiences in your life while portraying this character?
I I think I've been in one relationship, and I think it was more infatuation, at the time. It was short, sweet, all love to the person, but I didn't really channel much of that because I don't know if it was much heartbreak. It was more of like kind of letting things go. So that relation didn't play too much of a part, but I feel like I've had my heart broken in different aspects of life. Like,
Mm.
it's sorry, I don't mean to get more, but like there's been sad aspects in not necessarily having to do with romance. So yeah, maybe it's easy to channel it in that way. But not too much relation there. I just kind of went with the flow. I've seen people in heartbreak from romance and relationships, and I mean, those those poor homies
Oh man.
are down bad when they
Oh,
are. So it's like,
buddies.
and I've always been like a good
Buddies.
shoulder to lean on. So I just kind of take it from them
That
too,
one.
Yeah.
You're in Sweethearts, which has a Thanksgiving release, but you're also in Red One, which has a Christmas release.
Ah, I can't get away from the holiday season. I know, I know.
Griola.
Do I?
Is
Griola?
Was that it?
Grilla.
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 Griola. Jimmy.
Griola. I play Griola.
Her character name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you really like portraying, you know, characters in holiday releases?
It's interesting because I mean I don't seek it out. It just sort of happened that I'm into two holiday movies this year. I think there actually is though something pretty cool about a film that takes place around a holiday because it's usually the spirit of it is that like you maybe watch it every year. And I think there's something really beautiful about that. Like for me, I feel like every single Christmas, I watch a Christmas story. I watch it on loop. It starts in the morning, it ends in the evening. And to make a movie that, you know, you always hope the stuff that you make gets rewatched if people like it. But if that's actually kind of baked into the concept of, you know, making a holiday movie, I think that's really cool. I think it's fun. It's like stuff that people visit every year
Yeah.
is really special.
You think it's
So
something that your family might watch every year for the holidays?
Red
You
One
have
or
two.
Red One or Sweethearts.
Oh,
I mean, it's cool. I mean, my cousins saw Red One and they loved it, and it felt that was like so cool. Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. I hope this becomes a Thanksgiving
Make it a tradition.
classique.
Make it a tradition.
Ah.
now having a background in more dramatic roles as
Mhm.
Batman, what drove you to a lighthearted role
Mm.
like this?
Yeah, I mean, so I've always loved comedy. I always did improv growing up and I spent my life around a lot of funny people and I feel like you know, I have a funny bone. Like I love comedy. It's just not something that I'm like as associated with, I guess. So it really just felt yeah, like something I want to do. I did two sort of comedies back to back the summer that we shot this and it's a space that I love being in. I'll do comedy any day. Any
Do you
day,
have a
any
favorite
day. Do I have a favorite comedian? Caleb Heron.
There you go.
Caleb Heron.
No
I mean,
question.
he would kill us if I didn't say that, which is why I said that, because I'm afraid of him, but also because I love him.
Now, Sweethearts focuses on the transition between high school and college life, more
Hmm.
so in college. What advice would you give to someone at that stage in their life?
Oh, make mistakes. Make mistakes for sure.
And it's okay to,
Yeah,
you
because
know.
you grow from them, you learn from them. I mean, I really think that if I could go back to my younger self, I'd tell her to mess up a lot more than she did.
Mm, be bold,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
Cruise to that little off-campus party that you're a
Yeah.
little nervous about.
Yeah.
You know, go meet some new people.
Do stuff that scares you.
It's a new chapter, yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. Me and Keeks didn't go to college, so we
That's
didn't,
true.
you know, we didn't really have that privilege of meeting the new people at a college aspect, I don't think.
Hmm.
But I mean, I can imagine it's got to be intimidating. So,
Yeah. I think that age is just about finding yourself and taking risks,
yeah.
seeing what sticks, you know?
And real quick, one piece of advice for those who didn't go to college who are like, man, I want to be an actor. What would you tell them if they're in that limbo
Oh,
stage?
wow. I mean, there's so many things.
Yeah.
One, I would say that it's a funny job if you decide to become an actor. I mean, all love, it's a tough cadence because you never know when you're going to be working, not it's definitely not like as structured, but I would say try to find the structure that works for you so that you could always be improving is one thing. Like
Hmm.
there's endless movies to watch, endless performances to study, find a class, do improv, definitely do improv. I mean, those would be my things just from like a creative lens that I always try to do and feel better when I'm doing. You?
Go with the heart.
Yeah.
You know, be okay with rejection. We were talking about it yesterday a
Mhm.
bunch, the fear of failure, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
like that's a big one. Fear of failure is okay, but it'll definitely pull you back. So
Hmm.
just accept it.
Yeah. And believe in yourself. I know that's so cheesy, but like believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.